when you went to New York, you didn't have near the success in New York that you did for a decade in Edmonton. Did you ever think it was going to turn around? And how frustrating was that in those early years when I think it was 7 years in a row you missed the playoffs?
Well, yeah, I was pretty frustrated. I thought we had some pretty good teams. We had Lindros, Messier, we had a lot of guys, but things happened in New York. There's a lot of things that can distract the players. And of course, some of these guys were at the end of their careers, and Mike Richter got hurt the one year, and then we had to find a goaltender. We're lucky we found Lundqvist. But there are things that happened in that city that you don't have any control over. And in a small town like Edmonton, you have a lot of control over the players. And yeah, it was frustrating. But what happened is we dismantled the team and then traded a bunch of guys, got the draft pick, got the first pick overall, and then we started to get better again. So I think that team is in a position right now to really challenge for the Stanley Cup next year, where you learn to lose, and then by losing, you learn to win. You have to figure out how tough it is to win. And the first time we got beat by the Islanders in Edmonton, we walked by the dressing room, and you could see that the players were exhausted mentally and physically. They had ice packs all over them. And our team figured out that that's what it's going to take to win. And hopefully the Rangers have figured out what it's going to take to win next year. But they've got a good nucleus. They're ready to go. And we've got a good manager and a good coach. And I think they're going to do very well.
I don't want to go backwards, but I have another question about Edmonton. When you have a player that's Wayne Gretzky, I wonder if you as a coach treated him dramatically different because you knew how good he was and he probably didn't need much coaching. And I wonder if that was in any way a problem for you.
No, I don't think so. I try to treat everybody basically the same. And if a guy screwed up on the ice, I'd let him know it. Of course, with Wayne, it didn't happen very often.
No.
I know lots of times we'd be something had happened in the game, and I'd be watching a different direction, and Wayne would see what's going on. He could remember everybody's position on the ice, what they should have done, where they should have been. And he was marvelous that way. And he was a great guy to get information from. I really, really liked the guy.
Right.
I'm not sure the 2.5-minute shifts would be allowed today, but he played the game differently, Glen.
He did. The interesting thing about Wayne, we used to put the guys through the conditioning test at training camp and get on the bike, and there was a VO2 max test that we would do. Wayne was never in the top percentage of that team as far as conditioning is concerned. But he could go 2.5 minutes, sit on the bench for 30 seconds, and go back out. It was like the guy never seemed to get tired. As soon as he got a little redness on his cheeks, you knew that he was ready to go. And his endurance was incredible. He could recover after a short period of time on the bench. And not a lot of guys can do that. That was just something that Wayne had in his DNA that not a lot of guys did.
People who were around him said he was just a skinny guy, 165 pounds or whatever. When you walked in the dressing room and he was unclothed, were you shocked at how skinny he was?
Well, he was so smart that it didn't make any difference how big he was.
Yeah.
And, I find players that are intelligent and smart, well prepared, those are the guys you want on your hockey team. And it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be 200 pounds. I mean, it's a real bonus if you are, but I mean, Wayne made up for everything. You could see he had eyes in the back of his head. And he didn't get hit very often. He could get out of the way like nobody else.
Yeah, he played the game differently, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, Messier was a different guy. Curry was a different guy. They all had great skills.
Yeah, the fascination for me is that when you look back at it, to have two of the greatest players of all time as your number one and your number two centers in Gretzky and Messier. How did you manage those personalities?
Well, the interesting thing about those guys, they were never jealous of each other about anything that they did. If one guy had an incredible night, the other guy would be the first one to congratulate him, and they seemed to feed off of each other. And there's no animosity or Gretzky or Mark. That the team was a team. They wanted to be a team. They loved each other, and it was a family atmosphere. So you might get in an argument with your brother or sister, but 5 minutes later it's over with.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like that in that dressing room. It was really fun to be around them.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. You got one game. You're the coach of the team. Your two goalies are Grant Fuhr and Henrik Lundqvist. Who are you picking?
That's a good question for the audience to answer.
I know the answer. Lundqvist is the answer.
Well, the way Lundqvist played is much different than Grant.
Yeah.
And the game was different at that time. And Lundqvist was quick. Grant was quick, but he was more of a butterfly goalie, and Grant was not a butterfly goalie. The era changed when those guys from Europe.
Sure, I understand that. Yep.
So it's a different time.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine. Actually, the answer probably should have been, well, I can't afford both guys. I'm going to have to trade one. So,